Good morning, Ireland. It's Ken Ring here of www.predictweather.com. It's the 19th of October, and I'm going to bring you here a special report about the upcoming winter for Ireland. What is confusing is that some are saying that the Gulf Stream is slowing, which creates cold northwards, and others are saying that it's speeding up, which would bring warmer waters and air northwards before that air in the north has a chance to cool from the Arctic systems and bring that cool down. So what's going on? Well, I believe the key is not in the Gulf Stream at all. People should take their eyes off that. I think the key is in the average monthly speed of the moon and how it's going to affect the winter months. Now, unlike last winter, which saw the perigees, remember the perigee is when the moon comes closer to the Earth every 27.5 days. Last winter, the perigees were closer to Earth over the winter months relative to other months. But this winter sees a very much slower moon because those closer perigees, that bunch of months that the perigees are going to be closer, is going to come later in spring. So there's a slower moon over the winter around the northern declination time. Now the declination is when the moon is at its furthest point north, and that's when you get Arctic systems, winds coming from the north, northerlies generated, which get dragged over the country as the moon drags them further south. So around the northern declination you always get the colder times. And if you get a perigee around then as well, then it's extra colder, and that's what happened last winter. Well, there's a slower moon, there's not a close perigee this time in the winter time, meaning the Arctic wind flows are going to be going much slower. They're going to stall, and that will keep the cold right in the north, which will allow the Gulf Stream to bring warmer conditions further north without a whole bunch of cold coming down and blocking them. So it doesn't really matter what the Gulf Stream speed is, and mainstream science may be looking in the wrong place. Perhaps they should be looking at not the Gulf Stream, but the combination of the moon speed and the moon's timing of the declination. Now, it was the same with the Russian heat wave earlier in the year, and we talked about that on this blog site here at that time. In July and then August, if you remember, the perigee new moon was just changing hemispheres as the moon was trekking from north to south after the 6th of August. It was drawing weather southwards, and this drew the jet stream southwards, and as a result was the type of flooding, the rain, that occurred in Pakistan and South China, countries that are on or near the equator that get their summer monsoons. See, about the 6th of August, on the exact day the moon started coming south, East Germany got a whole lot of rain and a whole lot of flooding. On the other hand, Russia, which is a long way from the equator and misses that lower down jet stream because the range of the moon's hemisphere change is only ever 28 degrees north to 28 degrees south, so countries within that range get affected more. So when the jet stream dives south, it displaces all the high pressure to the north. So Russia, which sat above all that Pakistan, South China stuff, Russia copped it, copped all the warm air. Well, during El Nino, precipitation increases where the north polar jet stream moves further south, and it brings more storms with it. That's what happened earlier in the year. And the south polar stream moves further north. Now, conversely, during La Nina events, which we have right now, the northern hemisphere, the polar jet stream moves more to the north, and in the southern hemisphere, the south polar stream moves more to the south. So from several viewpoints, there's less cold coming from the north. Now, 1991, it was an El Nino, and we had high sunspot activity. We had the peak of the solar cycle, and that typically gives Ireland a mild winter. So from a solar and a lunar viewpoint, That compared, 1991 compared nicely with 2008, and it was a mild winter again, 2008. But 2009, 2010 was just the opposite. Low sunspot activity. It was the end of the solar minimum. Nothing happening on the sun. No radiation coming from it. And the moon was more approaching the mid-declination point. So the result was extreme cold. And now, as the sun stirs into life, it's all getting a bit warmer. We've moved on again towards the more normal, milder winter with less precipitation. For the full moon to be in perigee over the winter, which changes the trend and the position of the jet stream, we're going to have to wait until the for the winter time. We're going to have to wait until the northern hemisphere summer of 2012. But we'll be talking more about that later on. So what we're looking at is a potentially drier winter. Still a lot of cold though, because it is winter. But I think some of the coldest temperatures for Ireland may be at the end of this month, October. Also, just after Christmas and during the first half of January. I think there could be some snow in the week before the week of Christmas. I think also after Christmas time, I think the first half of January is mostly dry and cold and frosty. I think there could be a bit of snow just after Christmas, like from Boxing Day till the New Year. But talking about January, mostly dry, cold, frosty. On the 14th, the precipitation arrives, I think, and the last 10 days of January is going to bring the chance of snow. And in February, I think a bit of precipitation to begin with, but after that, mostly a dry month. I think it will be probably too warm to snow. Then the temperatures drop about the 11th of February and you'll have some frosts. That lasts about a week, and the last week in February may be a bit wet. And that will be it for the winter in Ireland. I think it might even be boring. I think, the human psyche is very easily spooked. When something extreme happens, you think it's going to be the pattern for the rest of your life. And we saw that in Australia with the global warming argument. We had one really dry year and a drought. So suddenly they're all crowing about drought setting in now for the next 1,000 years. And then, it rained 2 weeks later. Suddenly they changed their minds, and all that talk about drought mysteriously vanished. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this has been of help.